I appreciate you joining me today. We're going to be looking at the account of Jesus walking on the water. Our hymn today is called Eternal Father, Strong to Save.
Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea.
Appreciate it, Lee. Verse 2, O Christ, the Lord of hill and plain, o'er which our traffic runs amain, by mountain pass or valley low, wherever, Lord, our brethren go, protect them by thy guarding hand from every peril on the land. O Spirit, whom the Father sent to spread abroad the firmament, O wind of heaven, be thy might, save all who dare the eagle's flight, and keep them by the watchful care from every peril in the air. O Trinity of love and power, our brethren shield in danger's hour, from rock and tempest, fire and foe, protect them wheresoe'er they go. Thus evermore shall rise to thee glad praise from air and land and sea. Eternal Father, strong to save. We're in Matthew chapter 14. Let me back up a little bit. In Matthew 14 at verse 22, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there. But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a ghost. And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, Come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, Truly you are the Son of God. Can't remember if this is the place where in the parallel accounts it talks about how immediately they came to land, perhaps pointing to another aspect of the miracle. See, I believe it's here in the, like I said, in the parallel accounts. You know, I was thinking about the account, and I was thinking about Peter and how odd. I'd never considered a few different ideas about how odd it is what Peter does. And no, I don't just mean walking on the water. We'll start in verse 28. Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. Here they are, and they say, It's a ghost. Jesus says, It's me. Don't be afraid. And you would think at that point, you would say, if it is you, come closer. You know, they see this figure walking out on the water. And you would think you would say, if it's you, show yourself. But instead what Peter says is, if it's you, command me to come closer to you. And I've just never thought before about how odd that is. And I'm not sure if there's going to be an overall point other than it's an interesting account to think about and to visualize. But here Peter is, and he doesn't say come closer. He says command me to come closer. And this is what happens. He said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid. You know, I think in my mind, it's like, oh, all of a sudden the wind kicked up. It's like, No, the wind did not just kick up, because the account says earlier the boat was in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Like, no, the wind was already boisterous. It actually, the parallel accounts talk about how they were rowing against the wind, and that's why Jesus was able to walk quicker than they were rowing. The wind was already boisterous. And yet, when he gets down out of the boat and walked on the water to go to Jesus, and then he saw the wind was boisterous, it's like, Peter, you've been rowing against the wind for the better part of the night. When you got down out of the boat, the wind was boisterous. You know, I was also thinking about, within this point, they're rowing against the wind. So if when they see Jesus, if they stop rowing, then which direction is the boat going now? And the boat would be going backwards. And I just thought it's an interesting, needless to say, account to consider. But for Peter to get down out of the boat and start walking, and then when he sees the wind is boisterous, like, didn't you know the wind was boisterous when you said, Lord, command me to come to you? Nonetheless, there he is. He saw the wind was boisterous, and he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And the Lord says, stretched out his hand, caught him, and said, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? And he cries out, Lord, save me. He's crying out to the man who is standing on the water, save me. And it's like, here you are, you're sinking, and you're crying out to Jesus, who is standing on something liquid. And I just think it's an interesting account. You're asking, you know, would you? And he's recognizing, and like I said, I'm not sure who can fathom what lies in the heart of man, let alone Simon Peter. But can you imagine that there has to be some recognition that Jesus is not sinking? And you would think, you have two men standing on the water and one starts to sink. Would you cry out to the other man, Lord, save me? Because that's exactly what Peter does. He's the only one sinking. And it's just, as I said, and pardon me for repeating myself, you start visualizing that in your mind and you think about it. And there may be more to the account than perhaps we give Peter credit for. The fact that he would still cry out to the Lord, even though the Lord is on the water with him. He does not think Jesus is going to sink. Otherwise, why cry out to him? Anyway, we recognize the power of the Lord. But as we think about the account and we think about Peter, and it took an amount of faith, and Jesus says, why did you doubt? O you of little faith, why did you doubt? Peter had enough faith to come down out of the boat. No one else did that. Peter did it, and not by his own power per se. But you start thinking about, what was it that he was doubting? Did he doubt? He could not have been doubting that Jesus could stand on the water. He was doubting that he himself could stand on the water by the power of Jesus. Might consider it. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our Daily Praise.